represents good. We've all agreed to that. We all understand that God represents the good things in life, and that the devil or Satan represents evil. The worst things in life is represented in this caricature called the devil, whether you believe it's a real thing or not. You don't have to believe in God. You can look at this and be like, I'm an atheist. It doesn't matter. We understand that God represents good and that the devil represents evil. It's like that's just something that we've come to collectively as a society to understand. Chay here with the No Spoon Podcast. If you have not subscribed to this channel, please go ahead and do so now. Also, don't forget to like, share, and comment on this video. We want to hear your thoughts. We want to hear what you got to say. This is going to be a controversial topic. It's going to be a topic that I'm going to kind of push the limits on, far as what is socially acceptable, I guess you could say, and all that. But it is what it is. Um, so we just had the Grammy Awards the other day. Nobody really watched it. Um, I didn't watch it. I didn't even know it was on. Uh, I really don't want to get into as far as like showing any of the videos. We know the big controversy is the Sam Smith video. He performed a song called "Unholy" with a transgender artist along with him. Um, I posted just the last part on my Instagram page. I posted the last part, and in the last part it said, the song was over, and then it cut to it said this whatever Grammy Awards presented by Pfizer. And I just really wanted to show that to show you this is who's sponsoring all this stuff. This is who's paying for all this stuff, because this is who benefits from these agendas, right? I'm not going to show the video right now. I don't want to look at it. I seen it on somebody else's page. I started to watch it, and then I'm like, man, I'm not trying to get this song stuck in my head. I'm not trying to really indulge in all that, you know, as far as letting myself see out in it. But anyways, so I'm not going to play it right now. But you guys know what it was. It was Sam Smith. He was portraying the devil. There was a bunch of dancers. It was just a really satanic imagery and all that type of stuff, right? So I kind of want to touch on what's going on here in this whole agenda, and really just take this time to just call this agenda out for what it is, right? If you look, there was also an acceptance speech that Beyonce gives. I'm gonna play a part of that right now, just this one part, let you hear it, and then I'll talk about it.
I'd like to thank the queer community for your love and for inventing this genre. God bless you. Thank you so much to the Grammys.
So as you see, she thanked the queer community. Beyonce is probably, top 5 as far as the biggest artist in the world. Her influence is ridiculous. I think she has almost 100 million followers on IG and all that. Like, she's huge, obviously, right? We all know who Beyonce is. She also puts a lot of the satanic imagery in her videos. She uses in her lyrics. It's also in there as well, you know. And then she goes up on stage, she accepts her award, and she says, I want to thank the queer community. She's also a big LGBTQ advocate. Um, so here's really what I want to get to, right? You have Beyonce thanking the queer community, being an advocate of this. You have Sam Smith, who is, gay and non-binary or something like that. And then you had Lil Nas X, who did a video as well where he portrayed himself being in hell, doing a lap dance for the devil, simulated sex acts with the devil, and all that type of stuff, right? Now, the satanic stuff has always been in entertainment, right? And I can get into that in another video. I probably will, because it needs to be addressed. So I mean, I'm not just singling out just because, right? It's been around. The Grammys, nobody watches it, and this is probably the best way that they can get attention. Obviously, I'm making a video about it right now, so they're getting more attention. If they had it done something like that, nobody would have cared. So this is a way to get attention. We know that. We know Pfizer wants to get attention. They're the ones sponsoring it. They're one of the sponsors, right? Like we know what's going on here. Like, so this, I'm not sitting here saying, look, you had Marilyn Manson, you had Ozzy Osbourne, you had people that did a bunch of satanic stuff in their music for a long time. But it's becoming really trendy. And it's also becoming really trendy to disavow God and disavow um godly principles. Now, before I get into it, let me say this, because we have to establish some definitions here, right? Because there are some of you that are probably listening to this, be like, I don't believe in God, I don't believe in the devil, I believe that's just something that they did, whatever, they can do that, doesn't affect me, no way, no shape or form. And that's cool. Don't stop watching, because I'm talking to you too, and I'm not talking to you to try to convince you that there is a God or there is a devil or there's not. I'm just trying to explain this in the most logical way possible, right? I have another video, and I'm going to try to link that at the end of this video, that I did kind of speaking on this. The video is entitled Where Matt Walsh Missed the Point. It's in response to Matt Walsh's interview that he did with Joe Rogan, right? And I respect Matt Walsh. I like what he's doing, but I just think he missed the point, like a lot of religious people do. A lot of religious people, they don't explain morality. This is very simple with them. And I say this, that religious people are very lazy when it comes to reality, and they also do a disservice to God when it comes to reality, if that's who you believe in, right? What they say is, I don't do this is right and that's wrong because God said so, and that's it. For one, that's lazy, and two, it does a disservice to the God you're trying to worship, because it's as if he says, do this because I said so, that he had no rhyme or reason to anything that any of the laws that he laid down. Um, I don't think that's, I think you could get deeper into it. And so in that video, I kind of went more in depth into it. So go ahead, after you watch this, go ahead and check that one out. But I think that when we look at the concept of God and the concept of the devil, it's not, you don't have to believe in God. God is really, on a secular level, it's just a representation of good, right? It doesn't matter what religion you're following. It doesn't matter what you call God. God is a representation of good. We can get into the semantics of, oh, well, in the Bible he did this, or in the Quran God did this, so how can he be good? That's neither here nor there. I'm not getting into a theological debate. I'm basically just saying that God represents good. We've all agreed to that. We all understand that God represents the good things in life, and that the devil or Satan represents evil. They represents the bad things in life, represents the repulsive and the reprehensible. The worst things in life is represented in this caricature called the devil, whether you believe it's a real thing or not. See, that's what I'm saying. Like, you don't have to believe in God. You can look at this and be like, I'm an atheist. It doesn't matter. We understand that God represents good and that the devil represents evil. It is what it is. Like, that's just something that we've come to collectively as a society to understand, right? So that aside, that doesn't matter. And then what is good and what is evil? Well, if we understand that morality is really just, and like I said, I went into more in depth in the other video, so go ahead and check that out. But good and morality are things that help us survive as a species. If we look at it from a sort of a evolutionary point of view, right? As human beings, as a species, we have to disregard those things that are going to keep us from surviving as a species, and we have to accept those things and implement those things that help us to proliferate. You see what I'm saying? So that's what good and it's like murder. Murder is wrong. Why is murder wrong? Well, because if we all decided to murder each other, there would be only one person would survive, and that would be the greatest murderer of us all. It would be a kind of a Hunger Games showdown to whoever can survive. You know what I mean? And a lot of these other things that we see, a lot of these morals, don't stealing, don't lie, don't cheat on commit adultery. These things, what they do is they disrupt the harmony of the community. And if the harmony of the community is disrupted, then you have war, then you have killings, and then we don't survive. Like, that's basically what it comes down to. All our morals are based on what helps us survive and what doesn't. What is right is that which helps us survive. What is wrong is that which doesn't. So if you look at those concepts, God and devil, good and evil, right and wrong, all those things, one is on one side of the spectrum, and on that side of the spectrum is all the things that help us to continue to progress, help us to continue to advance our legacy, to procreate, to proliferate the human race. The other side does the exact opposite. Evil does the exact opposite. Wrong does the exact opposite. This is why we've come up with more morality, right? So if you're a religious person and you believe in God and somebody says, well, why is this right and why is that wrong? Why did God say this? Well, look at the laws. Look at most of these things are based on what can help us as a society continue to survive. That's basically what it comes down to. And if you look at this agenda, and I'm talking about the LGBTQ agenda, right? If you really boil it down and you break it all the way down and you say, well, what's wrong with a same sex relationship? It's not hurting anybody. That in and of itself, you're right. It doesn't. Just like one person deciding to murder another person does not hurt all of humanity. It might hurt that person, it might hurt that person's family, and so on and so forth. But if it grows and it metastasizes and it gets more, and we start to proliferate this idea that we can kill other people, then what happens? If we start to this idea of same-sex relationships starts to proliferate, and now let's say it's 1% of the population, and then the next generation it's 5% of the population, in the next generation it's 10%, and then the next generation is 20%. And then in the next generation, it's 40%. You see where I'm going with this? Eventually, we're going to start going backwards. Our numbers are going to dwindle. The population will decrease and humanity will cease to exist once we get to the end of that, because there's an end game in that kind of thinking and that ideology. So this is why you have morality in place. Don't do that. Yeah, but it's not hurting anybody. You're right. It's not, because you're only doing it. But when you teach it to the next person says, well, if he's doing that, then I do that. And then the next person says, well, if they're doing that, then I do that. And if we get to a generation where half of the people are, LGBT, that means, gay or transgender, whatever it is, then what happens to humanity? What happens to humanity? So it's no coincidence that you see these same people promoting this kind of degenerate lifestyle, promoting Satanism, promoting evil. There is no, like, it's not a coincidence here. They're doing it on purpose. This is why I said it is a satanic agenda, because if we all just jumped on board with that agenda, there's no more. And if you look, the battle of good and evil, the battle of God versus the devil, one has the agenda to advance humanity forward. The other has the agenda of stopping humanity. This is what's going on. If you don't think it is evil, you don't think there's an agenda behind there, you don't think that these people are trying to push something, there's some type of narrative, I don't know what to tell you. It's right in front of your face. And when you start looking at the pharmaceutical companies, you start looking at big the food industry, you start looking at a lot of the things that are in our food supply, our water supply, our the cosmetic industry, the pharmaceutical drugs, all of these things are setting us backwards. They are turning people towards this agenda. And the more we keep going down that route, it doesn't end well for humanity. We eventually become extinct. We have to look at this. They're doing this for a reason. They're putting this imagery out there for a reason. It's for a reason because it is what it is. It's evil.